Welcome in, everybody. Welcome back to the Offset and Penalties podcast. I apologize. 3-week hiatus, but we're back. We got a new webcam, and we're doing some new things. I've got my boys, Jack and Mike, from the Here We Go Podcast. These are my boys from home, and they beat me to the podcasting game. They started week 3, early NFL season. I was on it way late, and I've been planning this for a while, but they actually beat me to the action. So now they let me on the pod. I'm letting them on the pod. And Jack, Mike, how we doing, fellas?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having us on, Joe. It's been a lot of fun. We've been trying to get on you were on our podcast, but we've been wanting to get on here for a while now. And so, yeah, it's exciting. It's nice because we don't usually record with cameras. So, yeah, usually just voice for us. This is kind of new.
No, do you guys feel the camera shy? Do you feel the lights shining on you for the 15 YouTube
a little bit. I feel like I have to be careful of what I do. Because most of the time while Mike's talking, I feel like I can just kind of walk around my room and then just have the audio going, but I can't do that here.
It's like COVID when we had the masks on. You didn't realize how often you have your mouth open. And you're like, so you can't do that today. You got to do the muting. You got to do the muting thing the whole time, Jack. So Mike, obviously, me and you, we're talking playoffs today. Big episode. That's why I had you guys on. Jack, you can take a back seat because the two guys who have playoff teams playing, we can take the lead most of the time, and then we'll if you have any insight, we'll let you in at the end. Does that sound all right?
Well, you see, here's the thing. I'm going to live a little longer because you guys are going to have years shaved off your life from
but it's the sacrifice we're willing
this
to make.
Season. Yeah, but still, you guys are, neither one of your teams are going to end up in the ship, so.
No. Well,
watch both of them end up. Watch us have Niners, Steelers, Super Bowl.
That would mean Niners Super Bowl champs, maybe. I'd be okay with that.
If we could win 3 playoff games, 2 on the road, then I think we could beat the Niners if we can get there. But
sure, buddy.
I don't know.
Hey, Mike, what have you been saying all week? Why not? Why not us? Why not?
Anyways, Joe, I just wanted to say I'm excited to be on. Thank you for having us on the podcast. I've been telling people all week that a podcaster down in LA has been listening to Jack and I's podcast and is having us on this week, which all of that is a true statement. And so then I know people that we know you. We're friends.
Joe's from LA.
Yeah, well, I'm not from LA. You know where I'm from. I'm Sacramento through and through. But yeah, I've gone Hollywood. And you know what? You guys. I was waiting a little too long to get into the podcast game, and you guys did. I was like, wow, if these guys did it, I got to get into the game too. So you guys were part of the motivation. And hey, if you go to the Spotify and you look at similar podcasts, the Here We Go podcast is there. So the ties have been here since the beginning.
There's actually no it's just Here We Go podcast. The Here We Go is somebody else, so we don't want to copyright issue here.
We don't want to get trademarked.
You guys have competition, because now apparently I have competition. There's another Offset and Penalties out there, which if you're watching this, I'm coming after you. But that's wild. Well, let's make a mega podcast today, and let's put both these fraud podcasts to shame. If those are fighting words, so be it. And we're here to talk playoffs. This is a wild card episode. Playoffs. This is a wild card episode, but we're going through our brackets at the end, so stay tuned to the end of the show. But as always, as there always is on these shows, we're going to go through matchup by matchup, talk us through, and we're not skipping any. We're going through all of them, so let's get into it. Saturday, 1:30, Rams-Panthers in Carolina. This was a game that the Panthers won earlier in the year. It was actually a really great game, but you never know what version of the Panthers you're going to get, because if the version of the Panthers that played last week shows up for this game, it will not go the same way it did against the Rams. Rams 10.5-point favorites, over under total 45.5 points. Jack, me and you did a lot of talking in the beginning, so I'll start with you, Mike. What are your thoughts on, does Carolina stand any chance in this one?
Well, they say any given Sunday, Joe, or any given Saturday, right? So, and they did beat them only a little over a month ago, but the Panthers aren't exactly hot coming into the playoffs. That would be the one circumstance where I would maybe consider it more, but they're 8-9. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They couldn't even beat the Bucks. I know the game, but Tampa Bay has been just genuinely awful the back half of the season, and so They couldn't even beat them in Week 18. I mean, you guys will see my bracket, but I mean, I'm pretty high on the Rams. I don't give the Panthers much of a shot in this game. And they're a young team. They don't have much playoff experience either. When you look at the coaching, even though I think Dave Canales is a good coach, I mean, the Rams get the coaching edge, they get the quarterback edge, they get the playoff experience edge. I don't really know if there's one particular thing the Panthers do better than the Rams. I think it's just a complete mismatch. So I'm picking the Rams. I'm sorry, Panthers fans.
Jack, what do you got? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games where like you want to kind of see the other team win. Like I want to see the Panthers win. They're a really good story sneaking into the playoffs. Bryce Young has played a lot better this year. They've had star guys take a center stage like Rico Dowdle. We didn't really see him playing this good this year. Tet has been really good. But I mean, I got to go with the Rams. As Mike always says, playoff football is just a different beast. So yeah, they may have beat them a few weeks ago, but I don't think the Rams will have an easy time. I can actually see this being a little bit of a dogfight. I will go with the Rams. They got the MVP. Is Devontae back? Is Devontae for sure
he is
coming back for
I
this
think
game?
so.
He is playing. Yep.
Devontae's back. Leader. He had the most receiving touchdowns this year, right? So you got Devontae, you got Puka. Rams have a pretty good defense. There's no reason the Rams should lose this one at all. I think they're the bigger dog, and this is a tougher scene than Week 13. So I'll go with the Rams.
Yeah, and just off what you were saying, the fact that they beat them in Week 13, I mean, that can give them some confidence. But I also think schematically it gives the Rams more of an advantage. Usually in a rematch, the team that loses has they can kind of look at the scheme and see what the other team did and know how to counteract that. But if you're the Panthers, do you do the same thing? Do you change it up because they're going to change it up? So I mean, in one respect, it'll give them some confidence that they can beat this team. But schematically, I mean, Sean McVay is going to see what went wrong and make those corrections. So I think that's almost another thing that tips in the Rams' favor.
Yeah, and also the Panthers won a lot of games this year close, a lot of upsets where, they won the game, but if they would have played a second time, they probably would have won. Just want to say that.
No, you're good. I mean, the one thing, I obviously, and we'll get to it later, we're all very high on the Rams coming into this postseason. The one thing that does kind of throw things in a loop a little bit is, one, this is a stadium that hasn't seen a playoff game in a while, so there's going to be some juice in that building. I saw Cam Newton's the one doing the whole pregame, the pounding the drum celebration and stuff. Greg Wilson's calling the game, so there will be like that stadium will be rocking. And they're a young team and they beat this team earlier, so maybe that gives them some confidence. But they beat that Rams team in that game through the air. It was a lot of letting Bryce Young kind of rip it. The touchdown was an unbelievable fourth down throw to McMillan down the right side. The problem is I just haven't. Dave Canales, it seems like Bryce Young has these games, but he doesn't continue that confidence in Bryce Young throughout the games. It feels like that Rams game, Bryce Young was ripping it, and then against the Niners game, he was refusing to let Bryce Young rip it down the field. And it just feels like there isn't that confidence in his quarterback. And for that reason, I think the Rams win this pretty safely, just because it would take lightning in a bottle again. And they already did it once. They did it twice. If you think about the Packers game too, I don't know if they can do it a third time in the playoffs. Any last thoughts on that one? I don't want to spend too much time on this game. This is the worst game of the weekend, I think.
I will say, I kind of going back to last year, the back half after Bryce Young got benched, and then last year, when the Panthers are on, they're kind of a plucky team. I mean, remember they almost beat the Eagles last year. They almost beat the Chiefs, the Super Bowl teams from a year ago. Like you said, they've had a few momentous victories this year. So when they're on, and Bryce Young is slinging it, they are a good team. It's just far too inconsistent to really put a lot of confidence in them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it is a young team, and it is nice seeing a home playoff game not in Tampa Bay and somewhere else. It is crazy to think, little thing. I saw that, Atlanta got eliminated in early December, and they ended up with the same record as Carolina and Tampa Bay. Yeah. There was a game earlier in the year, I don't know if you guys remember, where the Jets upset the Falcons. Had the Falcons taken care of business in that game, not only would the Falcons be in the playoffs, but the Jets actually would have had the number one pick in this draft instead of the Raiders. So, that game kind of went the worst possible way for both those teams. That was something I saw on social media that I thought was funny. The Jets are going to jet. I mean, how do you go? I don't mean we're talking playoffs, so we should not be talking Jets. But while we're on the topic, how do you go a season without an interception? Is that not like the wildest stat?
Yeah, Mike, you got more interceptions than the Jets did in 2025.
I had like 3 or 4, dude. Like, yeah. Well, yeah, that's since 1933. The forward pass was a revolutionary concept back in 1933. I think the leading passing leader had less than 1,000 passing yards. So, the Jets find new ways every year to amaze us. So
they really do. They really do. I think if I continue with this podcast and you guys continue with your podcast, I think it will be another decade until we get to talk about the Jets in the playoffs. But obviously this year is not that year, and let's move on to, I think, which will be the chippiest game of the week. Just an amazing one because both their matchups were so good in the regular season. Packers ended the year 9-7-1, barely snuck into the playoffs. Their third straight year as a 7 seed in the playoffs, so familiar territory for them. They're going to Soldier Field, to Chicago, playoff football in Chicago yet again. 11-6 record for the Bears on the year. Green Bay, this surprised me. Green Bay slight favorites in this one. It's basically a pick 'em, 44.5 point over/under with the weather. Jack, I'm seeing you shake your head, but what do you think about this rivalry at Soldier Field?
I'm gonna take a pretty outside the box stance on this. I think this is a take care of business game for the Bears. Okay, wow. The Packers have ended the season. They're probably the most disappointing team in a long time. First off, they were projected to be really good this year. They delivered on that, but then they struggled. And then they beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. And then they were 9-3-1, and they were hot. And we were like, hey, this is the Pack team we expected all year. They had some injuries. And then they lost 4 straight games. And in probably the ugliest way possible, they lost those games. They nearly got shut out to close that season. That's fine. You didn't start your starters. The Bears game was just a disaster from the start. I know it was close, but it was just a straight-up disaster. The Bronco game didn't go, they really closed out the season on a cold streak. And I get the Bears didn't play well against the Lions, but I think right now the Bears are the better team. They're also the less beat-up team. And more importantly, I think they have the better coach by quite a distance. We've seen Matt LaFleur in the playoffs, in big games, and for a long time we thought LaFleur was kind of carried by Rodgers. We found out it wasn't the case because the Packers have made the playoffs. They've stirred it up in the playoffs a little bit. But if I'm being honest, comparing Ben Johnson's mentality to Matt LaFleur's, I really like Ben Johnson when it comes to January football, and I think the Bears would be taking care of business here. I don't think it's going to be like the other 2 games.
It is interesting. You talk about coaches. There have been some rumblings this week that this is like Matt LaFleur's job on the line type game where LaFleur could get in. I don't know if I agree with that because, the playoff success, but it is 3 straight years as the 7 seed. And, 1 year it did go okay. I don't mean to rehash bad memories. They did beat Dallas and they almost beat the Niners the next week. That Green Bay team was very hot. But then last year they ran into, the Super Bowl champs and it didn't feel like anyone was beating Philly. Mike, the Bears aren't exactly coming into this game hot either. They've lost 2 in a row, obviously in a much different fashion than Green Bay. What do you think about this one? Do you agree with Jack?
I do not agree with Jack. I've seen all of our brackets, and I think this is one of the games we disagree on a lot more. Typically when you see a 7-2 game, it's pretty heavily leaning in the favor of the 2 seed. There's only been 1 7 seed that's ever won, and we all know who that was, and Jack knows all too well about who that was. It was the Green Bay Packers. And so, and the Bears, all year, I didn't want to be a hater for the Bears. It's their best year since 2018, which, by the way, I randomly saw the other day. I always, in my head, thought 2018 was the last Bears playoff appearance. They were the 7 seed in 2020 in that game in New Orleans. I have literally zero recollection of that game.
Mitch Trubisky, the Nickelodeon Valuable Player Award in that game. That's all I remember about that one. Of course, that's Dak's award, but Trubisky held it.
No, get out of here.
But so I'm picking the Packers. I think I think all the pressure's on the Bears in this game because, they're all, they're talking about, we won the North. We're not going to give it back. It's their first division championship since 2018. It's their first playoff appearance in a while. And so they're riding high. But the Packers have owned them. I mean, this is a classic other than Steelers-Browns, this might be like the biggest big brother, little brother situation in the NFL. And so I think the Bears are just going to be almost in their heads a little bit, that just because you won the division doesn't mean you get the last laugh. The Packers can come into your house and beat you and ruin your fun season, and they still own you. And if the Packers lose, they're super beat up. They have Parsons hurt. They have Kraft hurt. That's an easy out for them. So it's a division rivalry. The Packers have led. Obviously, they won the first game. They led the majority of that second game. I mean, credit to the Bears' late game heroics. But, I mean, the Packers had them stymied most of the game. So I know Odunze will be back for this one. But, I mean, these teams obviously know each other very well. And like I said, it's a pick 'em. It's a division rivalry. But I'm going to pick the team that has more playoff experience and the team that clearly knows how to beat the other team more. I know the Bears are a different team. This is maybe a new era for the Bears, but the Packers know how to beat this team. And I think there's way more pressure on the Bears, and I don't know if they're ready for it.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement, and it's not like I'm not like convinced like, oh, Green Bay's gonna win. Like there's a reason the odds on this game are a pick 'em, right? Because Chicago does have this offense that can just strike like so quickly, and that's part of the reason they've won so many last minute games, including that last game against Green Bay. That game it took a Jordan Love injury, an onside kick muffed by Romeo Doubs, a fourth down conversion at the end of the game, and then that touchdown in overtime just to win that game, right? And you would have to think that coming into this game, Green Bay will be a little more tightened up and won't have those types of mental errors that they had towards the end of that Bears game. I think also the Bears were playing till the end against the Lions. The Packers, were playing Clayton Tune, and they weren't really worried. They were entrenched into the 7 seed. So I think there's a rest advantage for Green Bay, especially on a short week like a Saturday too. Green Bay has not exactly come into the playoffs hot. But I think the momentum the Bears had, even after the Niner game, they had some momentum because the way that game went, like a lot of people were speaking very highly of the Bears after that game. But that's the only game this year that their offense was really clicking in the first half. Every other game, it feels like it takes forever for the offense to get going. That was the case against Green Bay the second time, and that was the case against Detroit this last week. And I just think you can't play that game in the playoffs. And if Matt LaFleur comes out with a good opening script, like we see a lot of these Shanahan tree coaches having, and get up to a lead, I don't think they're going to choke another one to the Bears. So I like Green Bay in this one. If Chicago can get to a fast start, I think we're talking about a different story. But they haven't shown me any proof that they can do that except against the 49ers intramural flag football team defense. So I'm taking the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I think like you brought up with the Bears and all their comebacks this year. They've been a fun team, and I'm happy for Bears fans that they get to enjoy this kind of season. But in all my years of watching football, and Jack and I were talking about this the other day, I feel like the teams that are constantly eking out these late game victories, or they're constantly winning only in these close games, these dramatic comebacks, those teams usually get humbled in the playoffs pretty quickly. Those teams don't go to the Super Bowl because clearly they know how to win late, and maybe they get a little luck or something on their side, but usually in the playoffs that runs out. I feel like we just went back every year, we could recount that. I mean, the 2023 Minnesota Vikings 2022 Minnesota Vikings come to mind.
Yep.
On that. There's been a few other instances. So it just seems like typically those teams that are staging those late game heroics typically meet their match in the playoffs.
Yeah. Have we convinced you, Jack? I mean, we're not trying to convince you, but do you feel any differently, or are you still riding with Chicago in this one?
No, I don't think you guys make bad arguments at all. I really have lost a lot of confidence in Green Bay. They're very injured. It's not like Matt LaFleur, like we talk about playoff success of, the Bears, they've been winning all these last minute games, and historically teams that don't play very well in the playoffs. Well, historically, Matt LaFleur, unless he faces the Cowboys, doesn't play very well in the playoffs. So I'm not exactly super confident in the Packers playing well in the playoffs. So I'm looking at teams. The Packers are not very healthy. Josh Jacobs did not play very well down the stretch. I mean, I feel like it's more of a pick'em game than what you guys are painting out the Packers to be, if I'm being honest. And in this sense, I'm leaning towards Chicago because I think they have the better coach, and I think because they're the healthier team, and that matters a lot in the postseason too, especially when it comes to endurance. Because December can tear you apart. December can really like that's the thing. You can make these playoff pushes, but these games like with the Rams, that's kind of my concern with them. I think they're going to go on and play well because they have a really good quarterback and a really good coach and a good team. But December was rough on the Rams, given how good of a season they had, and that can kind of slow you up for the playoffs. So that's my concern with the Packers.
No, I'm in complete agreement. Like I said, I think this is fairly a very close game. I think the odds are where they are for a reason. And on the flip side, I'll play devil's advocate to my own take on this one. That the end of that game in Chicago, it took the onside kick and all that. If people forget, 2 weeks before that they played in Lambeau, and the Bears were driving down the field for a chance to either tie it to go to overtime, or if they went for 2 and scored, they would have won the game. And it took a Micah Parsons insane closeout on Caleb Williams to close out that game. There's no Micah in against a very mobile, very athletic quarterback like Caleb. That makes a big difference, right? And it's really, I think this is the most fascinating game of the weekend. I think just from a rivalry standpoint, these two teams had such good games this year. I'm really excited for this one, and normally these Saturday wildcard games are pretty underwhelming, but I think NFL did Saturday justice this year with this Packers-Bears game. So, any last thoughts before we move on to the Sunday games, fellas?
I think the Packers, I don't think they're great. I agree with what Jack said originally. I think they've had some injuries for sure, but they've disappointed me a lot this year. They're kind of the same team they've been the past few years, and they were supposed to take a big leap. But I think the Bears are the best possible matchup they could have drawn because they know them so well. Any other matchup besides Carolina, I'm picking against Green Bay with a good amount of confidence. But this is the one matchup where I think they win.
It is funny, like, when you're a fan, I don't know if you guys feel this with your teams, but, like, with the Niners, I've seen them play a lot of, like, division rivals in the playoffs over the years, and I always feel like I'm more nervous when the Niners are playing the team they just beat in the regular season as opposed to when they're playing a team that just beat them in the regular season. Like, that when they played the Rams in the NFC Championship in 21 or 22, I was horrified because I was like, God, they just beat this team in this close game week 17. Like, I always feel like there's a little bit of an emotional thing to the team that lost the previous matchup, which would give Green Bay the edge in this one. So enough on that game. This is a fun, unique matchup. We don't. This is a very rare matchup we don't see very often. But the Buffalo Bills, the 12-5 Buffalo Bills, which they seemed worse than 12-5, but they kind of sneakily ended up at 12-5 at the end of the year, which is they felt like a 10-win team to me during the year. But they do have Josh Allen. They're going to Jacksonville to play the 13-4 Jags. Bills are road favorites in this one. It's basically a pick 'em. 51.5 point over under. So Vegas thinks they're going to be scoring some points. I'll go with Mike on this one. Mike, what do you think? Josh Allen get it done, or is this Jacksonville team just too well oiled?
This is the toughest game. This is the best game of the weekend in my opinion, and the toughest game. I like the other 5 games I was able, I feel like, to get a read on. This was the one game that I was genuinely like, I'm perplexed on this one. Basically, I mean, the Jaguars I think are the better team, top to bottom. You look at the roster. And they're hot. You know, the playoffs is about who's hot, who's not. A lot of the time, they're on what, a 9-game? No. That's Houston's on the 9-game win streak. But 8-game streak for the Jags. They're very hot. You know, they might be the best team in the NFL based on the way they've been playing recently. But the problem is, and I try to separate my bias, or maybe it's not bias, but they're the Jaguars. You know, I'm not used to seeing this team in the playoffs, and certainly not winning. And the thing about the playoffs this year, especially in the AFC, with it being so wide open, there's no Chiefs. You know, most years you could just pick the Chiefs to win the conference and you'd probably be right. And so this year, it feels like the team that the majority of people are picking is the Bills because they're the most established team. They've been there every year. The past several years, they have the most trusted quarterback in the playoffs. And so a lot of people are picking them, but it's also they're the 6th seed. And like you said, they're 12-5, but they don't have receivers. They don't have a good defense, at least not a good rush defense. So they have some glaring holes in Buffalo. And so the thing is, you look at the Bills, I trust them. They have more playoff experience. They have the better quarterback. I don't know if I'd say they have better coaching. Liam Cohen's had a great first year, but it's his first year. So if you remove the logos, I'm picking the Jaguars. They have the better team. But when I look at Bills versus Jaguars, I think I trust the Bills more as an organization, just because the Jaguars are this newer team into the fray, like the Broncos, like the Patriots, like a lot of the teams in the playoffs this year. Ultimately, I'm going to go with the Jaguars just because of how dominant they've been recently. I mean, they went into Denver and they won, pretty convincingly in Denver. So it's hard to pick against Josh Allen and the Bills. Josh Allen has pretty much only ever been eliminated by Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Deshaun Watson. But I'm gonna go with the Jags, but I really have no confidence in this game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Jag, your boy Jacoby Myers, it felt like right when they traded for Jacoby Myers, Mike, your boy too, there's a little history with that, but right when they traded for Jacoby Myers, it felt like this offense unlocked. They were able to, there was a lot of, earlier in the year, I think the Travis Hunter thing was a big distraction, like, how are you going to play this guy on both sides of the ball, and it ended up kind of being a whole lot of nothing with him, except for one pretty good game at wide receiver, and then he goes down, they trade for Jacoby Myers, and they could play Jacoby Myers at the X, Brian Thomas out wide, Parker Washington in the slot, Brendan Strange. It's not these like crazy big names or anything, but with the run game and Lawrence, being athletic, using his legs, and the receivers just playing a role, it's been great. Jack, this has been a Buffalo defense that, especially on the ground, has gotten gashed. Do you think Liam Cohen and this Jags offense are capable of doing that again?
Well, I think they could do it, but I think more importantly, like with a game this close, the Jaguars are really hot right now. They're the hottest team coming into the playoffs. I think the last time they lost was to the Texans in Week 10.
Yeah,
and they beat some good teams. They put a whooping on Denver in Week 16. And it's like you said, when they trade for, it's almost as if when Travis Hunter went down, they got better on offense because they stopped having to worry about how can we incorporate him. They traded for Jacoby Myers. They essentially had a full receiver room at that point. Parker Washington kind of came out of nowhere this year, and BTJ was a bit of a disappointment fantasy football wise, but he's still a fairly good receiver. And Trevor Lawrence, like we kind of been saying, like he was kind of in the same boat Justin Herbert this year, if you ask me, where I was saying before the season with Justin Herbert, if Justin Herbert didn't win this year, when was he going to win? It's kind of the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. If he wasn't going to win this year, then it's like, okay, we gave him way too much props coming out of college. Then they kind of start off slow, and then they got hot, and that offense looks really good. He looks exactly like what we expect him to be coming out of Clemson. Like, it's taken him a few years, but he looks exactly like what he was marketed to be. The Bills, you can't discount them. You can't say that it's going to be like steamrolling for the Jaguars because Josh Allen has to have his respect. They still have James Cook. They have a good team. I'm favoring the Jaguars just because that offense looks like it's really dialed in right now and because they're really hot. And the Bills, though they have the best quarterback in the playoffs, they're still, compared to the Jaguars, they're not as deep of a team. They're not, and when you get down to their depth, when you get down to maybe even schematics, because of Liam Cohen, they're not as good of a team. They just have a really good quarterback, which may be enough. It may be enough to win 31-28, but my gut's telling me the Jaguars have the better team, and right now they're playing way better on offense. So they're kind of trouble putting up points. So that's why I'm leaning Jaguars.
And also, like, the Jags' offense has gotten a lot of the praise, and rightfully so. Trevor Lawrence was this golden boy quarterback prospect, and, like, now people are, like, seeing that with the right play caller and the right offense that, like, yeah, he's still that number one pick that he was. But we got to give this Jags defense a little bit of respect, too. They forced more turnovers than any defense in the league this year. And Josh Allen, for as incredible as he is sometimes, especially when he's not playing with a loaded offense, he doesn't have a number one wide receiver, he tends to turn the ball over. This has been an issue since college. And, as great as he is, he's maybe the best player in the NFL currently. This is a part of his game. And the other, on the flip side, Jacksonville, playoffs January, home field advantage is such an important thing, and that stadium will be very loud. Don't get it twisted, right? They haven't had playoff football in a couple of years, but there's not that cold weather fear element that you get going to some other places. If this was in Buffalo, I think the Bills wouldn't be 1.5-point favorites. I think they're probably safely 4.5-point favorites, even despite how hot the Jaguars are. So weather probably won't play a factor in this one. Maybe it'll be humid, but it's January, and it's Mike. Packers Bears is very exciting for me just because it's a rivalry renewed. But I think I agree with you. This is the most interesting and probably the closest game of the weekend.
Even weather, so it doesn't matter. They hung 34 on the Mile High in December on a fairly good Denver defense.
Yeah, you're right.
So weather isn't even holding up this Jacksonville team.
Totally the weather's kind of irrelevant to me. I mean, it's like 60 degrees or something. It's neutral weather. It's not the Miami Heat back in October, so it's not going to fatigue the Bills. But yeah, there's no. Most teams are flying into the cold this weekend. The Bills just get to escape it, which maybe it would have played to their advantage. I definitely would if the game was in Buffalo. So I don't think the weather's really a huge thing. But like you were saying, Joe, I think with Josh Allen and his turnovers, the Jags can build a big lead, or not even a big lead, but they can get off to a lead and put some pressure on the Bills. I think Josh Allen starts trying to play hero ball, and I think it starts to spiral from there. So it's very important that the Bills get out to a lead, I think, for them to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the one thing about Liam Cohen is, as good as this offense has been, they're a balanced attack. They do run the ball. I'm not a huge Travis Etienne guy or Bashaw Tootin guy. I don't think they're, exceptional running backs by any means. But in this scheme, running backs have been successful, and the run game has been successful. And I think Liam Cohen is too good of an offensive coordinator to, turn his head away from, the fact that this Bills run defense is awful. They lost to the Miami Dolphins earlier in the year when the Dolphins were struggling just because they could not stop the run game. And there have been multiple other losses like that. And, that game against Philly before the end of the year, that was a physical, beat-down game, and you lose one of those towards the end of the year, it can be demoralizing for team demeanor. So I think all three of us are on the boat that Jacksonville's going to win. And if you guys have any final thoughts, then please shoot before we get into the game I'm least looking forward to this weekend.
I'm going to be laughing, dude, if they lose, because I'm not a Josh Allen here. I love Josh Allen. I love the Bills. And in the past, when it came to beating the Chiefs, I'd love to see the Bills beat the Chiefs. But it's going to be so funny if the 1 year none of his regular competitions in the playoffs and that man still can't get it done.
Yeah.
Because it's everyone always feels bad for him. They go back to that 21 divisional round oh, he didn't get the ball. If he had gotten the ball, it's give me the break here, dude. It's he played the game against Mahomes. He played against Joe Burrow. He could have made the plays when he could have, and he didn't. Mahomes did. It just comes down to that. Because him and Mahomes are essentially, interchangeable. If you ask me, that's how good both of them are. So it's just dude, you got outplayed. I don't feel bad for you. It's going to be really funny if you don't get it done without Mahomes in the playoffs, though. This is your year. Go do it.
But also, everyone's saying, he's got, besides Rodgers, he's got the most playoff experience out of any of the quarterbacks this year. There's no Mahomes, there's no Lamar, there's no Burrow. But at the same time, this is probably since that year that the Texans eliminated him with Deshaun Watson. This is probably the worst roster Josh Allen's had around him in a long time. So, this is, if Josh Allen goes on a run and wills this Bills team to the Super Bowl, I think that is where we'll start to have some long-term discussions of Hall of Fame, all-time great discussions for Josh Allen, because this isn't a good team around him. Besides the run game, which the run game is very good, but that's mostly because of him, because of the threat of his legs and him throwing the ball. This is the worst Buffalo team in a while around Josh Allen. So if he gets it done this year and gets through Jacksonville and through New England and through Denver and whoever else, yeah, dude, we're gonna have some long-term discussions.
If Allen wins it, I will entertain the discussion that he's the best quarterback in the league, over Mahomes, and that he's been that way. I will entertain that. I'm not saying that is that, but I will entertain that conversation. I will invite those people into our group chat if he wins the ship this year.
I mean, he'd have to win 4 straight road games. Basically.
I don't care. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters.
It would be very impressive if he he can do it.
Mahomes has never been a wild card. Like say what you want about the Mahomes versus Allen thing, and that's a very highly debated upon thing, and we don't need to get into it a bunch right now. But this is like if Mahomes has never had a roster or a team or a coaching staff around him as bad as Josh Allen has right now. That's reality. That's fact. Now, whether or not if they swap places, would they be into? I don't know. That's getting into hypothetical la land. But like Mahomes hasn't had this. Josh Allen has, and I think if he's able to get through it, it's a testament to his greatness. And I already like right now, if you ask me who QB1 in the NFL is, I would say Josh Allen. Right, Mahomes has been great, but like Mahomes, these last few Super Bowls haven't been Mahomes superhero like we've seen in the past. It's been defense, it's been run game, it's been ball control. If Josh Allen wills this team and is scoring 4 touchdowns a game like it seems like he always does, I mean, yeah, I keep saying it, but we're going to have some serious long-term discussions. But that is besides the point. They got to get through a tough Jacksonville team first, and we move on to the game that I'm not looking forward to, fellas. And Jack, these are, I don't know who you're rooting for in this one. You hate both these teams, but the 12-5 Niners are going to Philly.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Let's go, baby.
Bang, bang.
11-6 Philly. Philly been an odd team, elite defense this year. The offense has not been great, but obviously they're playing against a cupcake defense this week. Philly are 5.5-point home favorites, and low over/under 44.5 points. Jack, you're smiling, you're chuckling a bunch. So what do you think about this one?
Dude, it's been amazing this week. I've run into so many Niner fans. Dude, so I was walking to the gym the other day, and this dude held the door open. I was like, oh, thanks, dude. He goes, I saw that Cowboy bag. Almost wanted to have. He's like, I'm a Niner fan. I was like, dude, you can get the Eagles first this week? He goes, yeah, I hate the Eagles. And they all say the same thing. It's that championship game from 3 years ago. They hate the Eagles, dude. That's the one thing I sympathize with Niners. We all hate the Eagles. This guy came through my line today at work, and he's like, you don't knock my quarterback out of the game like that. And then go celebrate on us when he blows out. You don't knock my quarterback out of the game. Like, they're pissed, though. Dude. Go get it.
It is a rivalry. Like, and now this week there's been a lot of talk, and the coaches like Sirianni and the players are like downplaying it, like it's all respect. But like between the fan bases, like that game in 2022, that NFC Championship game, many Niner fans, including myself, I don't know if the Niners would have won the game, but that game's a lot different if Brock Purdy's in that game, regardless of what Eagle fans say. But on the other, and then the next year, the Niners go into Philly and they beat up the Eagles, the 10-1 Eagles at the time. So then Eagle
with
fans
the same teams, virtually the same teams, they didn't change.
With virtually the same teams, and Purdy healthy in that one. And so they went from Philly fans being like, wow, these Niner fans are butthurt, to all of a sudden both fan bases were butthurt for different reasons. So that's what makes this one interesting. But truth be told, the core pieces are there. But since that NFC Championship and since that 2023 game, these two teams are very, very different. The Eagles had Sean Desai calling the plays on defense that year in 2023. It is now Vic Fangio, and their defense is amongst the best in the league. They have been on par with Seattle and Houston to end the year statistically. And on the other side, a lot of those Niner playmakers that beat up on the Eagles in 2023, Ayuk, don't get me started on him, Debo, they're not there. And Trent Williams isn't healthy. Ricky Pearsall isn't healthy. I mean, do you guys – I forget who. I mean, a couple of you guys took the Niners in the bracket. Why?
I think we both did. I think Jack and I both did.
I didn't. I took the Eagles. I'm a realist. I took Philly against my own team. So talk to me, Mike. What?
Are you sure you're just not trying to do the whole reverse jinx thing here?
No, I can give you the reasoning why. I can 100% give you the reasoning why. What Seattle did last week was very, very scary, and Mike McDonald plays a very similar defense to Fangio, in which they do simulated blitzes, meaning you're still rushing forward, but you're sending a linebacker or a DB, and you're dropping one of your ends or D tackles into coverage. So it's like you're blitzing with 4, basically. And the Niners' offensive line could not block a simulated look for their life against Seattle. And it made me think back, okay, the Niners' offense has been hot, but it's been against the Bears, the Colts, the Titans. The Browns was cool. That was a good defense, but it was the Browns at the end of the day. And it made me think, man, the Niners offense, even though they've been clicking, they haven't done it against any elite defenses. And then when they ran into Seattle, granted there was a lot of bad breaks in that game, it didn't happen. So I think that if Pearsall and Trent are there, I think I'm a little more convinced, because then we'll have a guy to be man coverage and we'll have a guy to not get torched on the end. But if one of those guys is gone, I don't have faith in my team to block this Philly front or to separate against DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, and a very talented secondary in Philly. And if you want to convince me otherwise, please do. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Did they practice today? I haven't. Trent Williams and Pearsall,
Trent missed. They both missed on Wednesday. Trent was limited Thursday. Pearsall was working on the side, but so was Fred Warner, and Fred Warner's not playing this week, so that should tell you something.
I feel like Pearsall's literally had like 5 different injuries this year. It's like every time he's playing, next week he's hurt.
It's the same one. It's the same MCL. He just keeps re-aggravating it, and then he got hip drop tackle.
Legend says the gunman's sabotaging the rest of his life.
Bro, he's just cursed. He's the most cursed player in the NFL. Bro got shot, and then they couldn't even get.
What about Damar Hamlin?
Yeah, but he's healthy now. I shouldn't make that joke.
Nah, he came through my line at Trader Joe's. He's doing all right.
Damar did?
Damar Hamlin?
Damar Hamlin did?
Yeah.
Damar Hamlin's in Roseville?
At least the guy said he was Damar Hamlin. I don't know.
Okay, we'll hash this out afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. Mike, talk to me. Why do you have
I mean, I don't know. This is the pick I made that I'm honestly like the least confident in. But I don't know. I feel like, you Niners fans are all doom and gloom right now. But I don't think the Eagles they do have a good defense. And I know they're the reigning champs, and on paper they're a great team. But they haven't been that impressive this year to me. And the Niners, despite injuries all year long, got to 12 wins. So I know there's a bad taste in everybody's mouth because, they got a big dose of humble pie against the Seahawks. But they're not. Purdy and the Niners offense were very hot before that game, and I know they were doing it against the Bears and the Colts and the Titans. Shout out Brock Purdy for winning me in my fantasy league. Like I said, these teams hate each other. There's, both these teams are gonna, it's a playoff game, obviously, but they're both going to get up to play this. I think the Niners are still, more slighted by what happened in 22. I think they have more emotion. I guess, to be honest, I think I just picked them more so out of my disdain for the Eagles. Now, I don't have the disdain you guys have being Cowboys and Niners fans, but
you should. They're a state rivalry.
Look, bro, I don't care about the state rivalry.
He lives in California, Jack. He's not a Penn native.
I just think the Eagles are boring to watch all year long. Like, their style of football, it wins games, so you can't hate on it too much. But this all year, Jalen Hurts this year, right? People after the Super Bowl talking about he's a top 5 quarterback. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. And, the coaching has not been as good this year. It's kind of back to the 23 season where Fangio's still great, but why am I blanking on their offensive coordinator? I know Kevin Patullo. The fans hate him.
Yeah.
And so I think I honestly more so picked the Niners out of the fact that the Eagles all year long have just been unimpressive to me. And I'm just honestly kind of sick and tired of watching them. And I think they're kind of a boring team. And the Niners have been hot. They've won despite injuries all year. These teams know each other well. So it's almost a little bit like the Bears-Packers. They're a division rival. They're not obviously, but it feels that way. Although they haven't even played since the Niners wiped them in late 23. So
and that's kind of my point, yeah.
I see why you're pessimistic, Joe, because I feel like anybody can walk down that Niners defense. So the Niners offense is going to have to come to play, and so it's hard for me to see it, but I'm picking the Niners kind of just out of some blind hope, I guess.
It is very much a strength versus strength, weakness versus weakness matchup. Sorry to interrupt you, Jack. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, you're all good. I'm the one interrupting. The thing is about the Niner-Eagles team is these teams have been – this matchup is the one where, the Bears are a new team. The Jaguars are a new team. Right, Panthers, new team. But the Eagles-Niners, though they are not the same as they were 2 years ago or even 3, they're the same team in a sense. You have the same head coach, you have the same quarterback, you have the same big names, right? You both have regressed greatly since that 22 championship game. So that's where it's kind of still, I feel like it's more of an, when we've seen these two teams, match up, pound for pound, the Niners whooped them. When you both had your quarterbacks, you both had as healthy as you could, the Niners put a whooping on them. And personally, I think that's because they have a better quarterback, than the Eagles do. Purdy is better than Jalen Hurts, and I genuinely think that Shanahan is better schematically than Nick Sirianni is, or whoever's calling the
100%.
whatever alphabet soup name is for the Eagles offensive coordinator. Okay, so I'm very confident the Niners can go in there and do it. And here's what we've seen about the Niners: screw the injuries; it doesn't affect them as long as they have their guy McCaffrey on the field and Purdy and Shanahan calling the plays. You can't really stop this team. So I'm
Unless
pretty
you're the
confident
Seahawks.
that the Niners are going to go in there. I don't think they're going to blow it out. It's going to be a dogfight because the Eagles always make it tight because they run their stupid little leg move kick offense where all they do is spam B and they win. That's essentially what the Eagles do. So it'll be a tough one, but I think the Niners will get them.
Well, this is very much. You said obviously Shanahan has the play calling edge over Sirianni and Pachulia. Everyone knows that. But at the end of the day, Shanahan's going head to head with Vic Fangio, right? Not the OCs, the Philly side, right? So it's a matter of Robert Saleh versus that Philly play calling, and I think you'd give the edge to Saleh any year, except this defense is so beat up, and the Niners have withstood the injuries all year. What just beat me up a little bit, and the reason I'm kind of very down on my team is like that Seattle game just felt like without Pearsall, without Trent, it just felt like that was the breaking point of the injuries. Like that was the first time all year, besides that Tampa game when Fred Warner went out, where it really felt like maybe the injuries finally became too much for the Niners to withstand. On the other hand, though, this Niners team under Kyle Shanahan has every single postseason they've made it, they've won at least 2 playoff games. Every single postseason they've made it, right? They've never gone out before the NFC Championship. And a lot of the stars who've been there for the playoff runs are still there. I think Pearsall is important. I think Trent Williams is very important. And if Trent Williams is out there, I think that dramatically changes the Niners' chances. But you're going across the country. Philly just rested their guys, right? Even though it ended up being a stupid move because if they had played their guys, they'd be the 2 seed right now, not the 3 seed. They've just rested their guys. The Niners are coming off of an emotional loss. It just feels like Philly isn't trending up, but they're just kind of there. The Niners, it feels like for the first time in a bit, are trending down. I'm a Niner fan, so my opinion really shouldn't be taken seriously when it comes to this matchup. But that's just how I'm feeling about it as of right now. Anything else on this one, or are you guys ready to move on?
I mean, I think I see why you're downtrodden on them, but I think the Niners are one of the teams like going across the country to play in Philadelphia. I don't think they're phased by that. This team has played in a lot of big games. I mean, I know it was 4 years ago they won in Green Bay, and Green Bay was the biggest Super Bowl favorite back in 21. I don't think they're phased by that. I think they have the coaching advantage, like you said. It really just comes down to personnel wise, though. The Eagles are just healthier, and that alone might be the difference. But I'm going to be optimistic and say the Niners get it done.
Yeah. Lane Johnson.
Also, why are we giving the Seahawks defense all these flowers and no, fees or penalty to the Niners? Okay, who's to say the Niners didn't fail to execute a little bit on some of those drives against the Seahawks? So it's like Seahawks put together a wonderful game, but the Niners defense also put together a really good game against a fairly good Seahawks offense. So momentum matters in a sense. And when you get down to it, the Niners were in position to make this a close game, and McCaffrey fumbled the bag and dropped it right into the defender's hand behind him. If you score on that drive, momentum's a little bit. The game could be a different outcome. It's a rivalry game, so I'm not going to discount all this everything the Niners were doing leading up to that. They were like the Jaguars. Their quarterback was playing really good in the NFC, probably the best performances we'd seen down the stretch in the NFC this year, and also I'm not going to completely say the Seahawks completely obliterated their offense. They didn't do anything. The Niners defeated themselves a little bit. They failed to execute on some of their drives. And I think when it comes down to in the playoffs, I think you get a little bit better execution. Maybe the Niners needed that to kind of give them this boost to win a couple of games.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think we're ready to move on, and I think this is another interesting one, and we're getting some new blood in the playoffs. Potential, I don't think he will be, potential MVP Drake May making his first playoff start. It's not an easy one. You're at home against the Chargers. Patriots, Vegas still likes him, 3.5-point favorites, 45.5-point over/under. The Chargers just rested their guys. They're a very beat-up team. Obviously, they don't have an offensive line. They really haven't had it all year. there's been a lot made this week of the Patriots and the lack of wins over playoff opponents. It feels like their only valuable win most people are really putting any value into was over the Bills earlier in the year. Mike, I'll start with you. How do you feel? Do you think the Patriots' lack of wins over competent teams is an issue, or what?
Why is Jack busting up over there?
I don't know.
Oh, nothing. No, I'm fine.
He finds my speech funny. You find it funny? I'm not coming on your pod again.
No, see, that's why I didn't want the cameras on.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
I mean, I do think it's a little concerning. Just the Patriots, they're a new team, which feels weird to say because, of course, they were very annoying to watch all those years. But it's a new era, right? Them and Denver, even though they were in it a lot, like them, the Bears, like they're all in that category of they're new teams that I don't really trust despite their high seeds. But I've kind of been a big Chargers hater the back half of the year. When Jack and I did our mid-season playoff picks, I actually picked the Chargers to fall out of the playoffs entirely. And I will add, if the Colts don't have a massive implosion, they just might have fallen out. And it was really more so due to all of the injuries that they had, and you are seeing that. I think Herbert's like top 4 in being sacked this year.
Yeah.
So, and like Jack and I have a friend, or our friend, the Chargers fan. We call him, the government plant because he's a Chargers fan. He was upset with me about predicting that, and so obviously they did squeeze in as the 7th seed. But despite the Patriots' lack of experience, I'm going New England. I just feel like the Chargers are running out of steam. They do have a great defense. Jesse Minter is going to go be a head coach somewhere for sure this coaching cycle. And I think Justin Herbert is under a lot of pressure, maybe more than any other quarterback, because Herbert continues to get put in these elite quarterback conversations, but he's 0-2 in the playoffs. And he's staring 0-3 in the face. So I think they have a shot. I've kind of, when the schedule first came out, I was pretty immediately, other than the Rams-Panthers game, this was the game I was the most confident in. I was immediately, Patriots are going to win, no questions asked. As the week has gone on, I've started to question it a little bit more, thinking, well, the Chargers, their defense the lights could be too bright for this young Patriots team. Playoff experience matters, so, but ultimately I'm going to stick with New England. I just think they're the better team. Drake May I don't think he should be the MVP, but he definitely is the runner-up. And, I mean, Herbert just doesn't have a ton of help right now, and that offensive line is rough. So I'm going to pick the Patriots, and there's going to be some dialogue about Justin Herbert this offseason.
Jack keeps smirking. I don't know what he finds funny about Mike talking. It's when Jack talks, we're not smirking while he's talking, and then all of a sudden he's returning the favor. So I was going to let you go, but I'm going to go now. The Chargers, I think there's a little look. This happened midway through the year. If you guys remember, the Jacksonville Jaguars put a beat down on this team. Like, it was really, really bad. And then the Chargers had to bye the next week. And a lot of people were writing off the Chargers. Like, a lot of people were saying, this team is cooked. And see, this guy, we can't have anything. We can't have anything with this guy.
We can't even...
He's distracted.
I'm trying to focus on what Joe's saying, but Jack's over here making faces and
distractions and okay. Let me get back on. I'm going to ignore this guy. If with the Chargers, the people forgot about him during that 2-week stretch. The Jacksonville and the bye, they got beat down, and then it was like, oh, he turned off his camera. Typical. All right, we good? All right, we're good.
Come on, Jack, you're not going to get invited back if you keep acting this way, dude.
No, it's okay. You know what? It's okay. He's. You know what? The lights are too bright for some people, and that's okay. And you know what, Mike, you're doing tremendous. And
ain't got no issues. You guys keep letting this affect you.
I know. This is honestly. I'm supposed to be the professional here, and I'm letting this go. Okay, I'm gonna get this out now. The Chargers, people forgot about them earlier in the year. Then they came back and they fired off win after win. They lost to a very good Houston team at the end of the year, but it was a very close game. They made it very close in the end. And then they kind of had a bye because they rested their starters against Denver, which was a lot of confidence in Harbaugh and his team saying, we could be the 5 seed if we win this week, but we're going to rest the guys and we're content being the 7 seed like they are. And I think they're going to be rested. Herbert needed a week off. He's been playing with a broken wrist. And I just think Drake May, this is an elite Chargers defense that has been disrespected through and through. And I saw after that Denver game last week when they didn't play any of their starters, I saw a lot of Chargers players after the game saying, "We can beat this team. Denver's trash. We can beat this team." And if they win this week, they will go to Denver. They're the 7th seed. And I think they're playing for that. And I think this New England team, even though they've got Vrabel, they haven't beaten many teams of the caliber of the Chargers. So I think this is going to be low scoring. But I trust in this Chargers defense and I trust in this Chargers run game to just make this a grimy, grind-out game and go to Foxborough and take it to the Patriots. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, I picked the Patriots in this one. So I had kind of a theory, and there's this game that keeps sticking in my mind that Justin Herbert played. It was a few years ago. He played it when he had to go all the way across the sea. When the Chargers were, again, they were playing really good, and he had to go all the way over to Baltimore. And I remember the Chargers, for no explainable reason, got absolutely clapped by the Ravens. I remember you said something to me, Joe. You said when West Coast teams got to go right all the way across to the East Coast in cold weather, and it tips the scales, in my opinion, in Patriots' favor. Obviously, the better team, they got home field advantage, and the Chargers got to travel all the way to them. That being said, I do think that right now the Patriots just have the better team. I think I was high on the Chargers earlier this year. I thought they were going to be the one to dethrone the Chiefs to take the AFC West. Excuse me. It was the Broncos, which is totally fine, but honestly, they did kind of fall off as the year went on. Injuries caught up. I do think if they had Hampton more of the year, you would have seen a much more vaunted run game from them. Whereas once he went out, they were switching between Vittle, and it just didn't really work out the way you'd want. So I do think they've fallen off a little bit. I think the Patriots, Drake May probably won't win the MVP, but he was playing like an MVP quarterback down the stretch. Plus, the way they run the ball with Henderson and with Stevenson, I just think in cold weather that the Patriots are just going to outlast them. However, I do like your point saying it's going to be low scoring. I don't think the Patriots will blow them out. I don't think this will be like, because the NFL Network likes to post the old games now whenever rematches come up. So they're talking about the Patriots Chargers from 2018 when the Patriots absolutely stomped on them when no one was expecting. I think even I picked the Chargers in that one to beat the Patriots, and I was a Tom Brady fan. I don't think it'll be that way. I could see like a 20-13 low-scoring defensive game where honestly it kind of just comes down to which quarterback makes the right throw at the right time. And personally, I think Drake May right now, based on what we've seen, is that guy. He's an MVP candidate. And Justin Herbert showed me that he doesn't show up much in the playoffs. I remember last year when they played the Texans, they were favored, and then they got stomped. Yeah. And he threw 4 interceptions. It was atrocious. It was nauseating. So I'm expecting similar performers to come up out of Justin Herbert again because I've seen nothing different. So, yeah, Patriots in this one.
I'm surmising like 2016 type final score here.
Yeah, I agree. And Mike, you might not know this. Jack knows this. I'm a big Justin Herbert fan. I've always been a very, very much.
Anyone out of Oregon.
Yeah, of course. And now the college I go to doesn't have a football team, so I can continue to root for the Oregon Ducks. They're playing Indiana tomorrow. Go Ducks. Look, the Chargers, I've always been a Herbert fan. That game against Jacksonville a couple years ago, that was a defensive collapse on Brandon Staley's part. And that was an abysmal, the fact that they had that lead over the Jaguars and choked it was bad. I don't solely put that on Herbert's shoulders. Last year against Houston, that was on Herbert's shoulders. And what I do know is Harbaugh is one of those coaches throughout his career, he has proven he wins playoff games. And I think it took a Justin Herbert just collapse last year for that to happen. I don't think the Patriots' defense, while it's a good defense, I don't think they're of the caliber of the Houston Texans where they can make Justin Herbert look like a Canadian Football League quarterback like he looked last year. So with that being said, I do. And I've been on this channel, I had been openly very high on Drake May. I was calling for Drake May MVP talks after the Browns game, which was like week 6 or week 7, no joke intended, earlier this year. And I just think that the Chargers... I just think that defense, I love Drake May. I don't know if he has enough in him to withstand a defense like this because, frankly, he's been playing the Jets and the Dolphins and Baltimore, which, went 8-9. He hasn't played any elite defenses like this. So I do like LA in an upset. I already said that, but I feel like reiterating it again. Any final thoughts on this one, fellas?
I will say,
No.
as the week draws on and like I think about it more, I almost have a gut feeling that the Chargers actually are going to pull this out. I mean, I'll stick with my pick of the Patriots, but I don't know. It's a good year to be a 7th seed because normally the 7th seed, because a lot of times it's the Steelers. It's just like a preseason game for the 2 seed. But this year, I think both 7 seeds do have a legit shot. Yeah, I mean, because the Patriots and Bears are similar in that they're both, second-year quarterbacks that are new to the playoffs. So they're not the Bills, they're not the Chiefs, they're not the Eagles, they're not established teams. So there's definitely a window there, and I could see it. I don't know. You persuaded me a little bit, Joe. So I'll stick with the Patriots, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the beauty of these playoffs is we've talked about it all season. Like, this has been the most competitive NFL season we've had yet. And this is the first playoffs in a long time where it's hard, especially on the AFC side of things. Mm-hmm. Like, the Broncos are the 1 seed. I don't think anyone views the Broncos as, like, the clear-cut favorite to win the AFC. No one does. And even though Seattle just won a very good game against the Niners, and I know we'll get to that later, I know even though Seattle, like not many people are like high on the Seahawks because the offense has kind of been stumbling late this season. So, like you said, this is if there's going to be a year to be a 7 seed, this is the year. And also, the Green Bay on the other side of the bracket, they went 9-6-1, right? This Chargers team was an 11-win team this year, and that was with throwing a game week 18. Granted, they might not beat the Broncos if they play their guys, but they beat the Broncos earlier in the year, so we've seen that they can. And it's an 11-win 7 seed, right? And I know you said if it was for the Colts, maybe, but, the Colts had a tremendously hard end to their season. They played Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Houston to end the year. Even with Daniel Jones and all that, there's a chance they go 1-3 in those games instead of 0-4. So I think the Chargers have been very much slept on, and I think if I'm wrong, I'm wrong because I'm a Drake May guy, and, it is what it is. New England is the favorite and the home team after all, but I'm a Harbaugh guy, I'm a Herbert guy, and I trust in this Chargers team. So let's move on to the final one, and we know where we're going now. And I didn't get a chance to listen to your guys' podcast. I'm sure we talked about this in depth, so I'll give the mic to you, Mike, no pun intended. The Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Texans, 12-5 are the Texans this year. Houston, 3-point road favorites. I honestly, even though I knew they were a road team, I thought that line would be a lot more, but 38.5-point over-under, which says what it needs to say about these two offenses and these two defenses. Mike, what you got for me? How are you feeling about your Steelers coming into this one?
Well, I'm ready to unleash and unload about this game, Joe. I mean, shoot, I'm obviously Pittsburgh. If you've listened to me on the other podcasts, I'm kind of like how you're very negative about the Niners just this week. That's made me the Steelers the entire year because they do the same thing every year. I still want Mike Tomlin fired. He's gonna have to go on a deep playoff run here for me to change my stance on that. But I do think it's the best chance the Steelers have at winning a playoff game in a while because they haven't won a playoff game in 9 years, going on 10 years. But the last 3 times they were in the playoffs, they were in Baltimore, in Buffalo, in Kansas City. So they were a road team going against a bona fide Super Bowl contender. Texans are a great team. They're a hot team right now. I respect them, but they're not the same caliber those teams were. The game is in Pittsburgh. A trend that's getting thrown around a lot this week, which I don't know how much bearing it has on this game, is Steelers haven't lost a home Monday night game since 1991. So that's the entire tenure of Mike Tomlin. They've never lost a home Monday night game. Now, of course, none of those have been playoff games. And I know it's kind of like, it seems like a silly stat, like, oh, that shouldn't matter. Like, you look at the X's and the O's of the game, like, who cares? They haven't lost a home Monday night game. But clearly, there's something about, Mike Tomlin gets his team ready to play. They know how to win on Monday night at home. I am going to pick them in this game, which obviously, take my opinion with a grain of salt. Really, they're going to have to make it a slugfest, which I think they can do. The biggest problem with the Steelers, the past, all their playoff losses, in every single game, they've had a 21-plus deficit to overcome at a certain point. And multiple of those games, they've allowed 40-plus points to the Browns, to the Jaguars back in 2017, to the Chiefs in 21. So the defense has just been genuinely atrocious, which is one of the reasons I want Mike Tomlin gone, because he's the real architect of that defense. But Houston's offense is not great. Their O-line isn't great. They don't run the ball super well. So I think the defense has to come to play. And you saw last week, with all the coverage bust to Zay Flowers, like they're still not great. They're nowhere near, they're the highest paid defense in the league, and they don't look anywhere close to that. But watching this team all year, the defense has improved down the stretch. The front seven in particular, Highsmith, Watt, Herbig, Hayward, they got to take over this game, but I think they can do that because the Steelers aren't going to score a lot of points on the Texans, right? It's not a shootout. I think they can make it a slugfest. In Pittsburgh, one thing about the Steelers, they're cockroaches. They're hard to kill. They above 500 every year, and there's just about, I don't know if there's any better team statistically in the last five or so years at winning close games. So the problem with the Steelers in the playoffs is you blink and they're down 21-0 and the game's already over. So to me, if this game is close and competitive after the first quarter, I really like the Steelers' chances because usually in a close game, people talk about Mike Tomlin's voodoo magic. The Steelers find a way to win it. And so obviously I'll probably be on Tuesday, raging about we need to fire Mike Tomlin, but I'm optimistic. The law of averages says the Steelers are due for a playoff win. So finally at home for one. The Texans are hot. I get it. But the Steelers do. See, it's hard for me to separate my bias from this. I feel like the Steelers, in some respects, do have the makings of a team. And I'm not picking them to go all the way in my bracket, but they have a great quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is still playing at a high level. The offense, they've won 4 out of their last 5. So, like a lot of teams in the AFC, they're kind of hot. They've played their best football in December, which is a difference from a lot of their last playoff years. A lot of years they've backed in the playoffs, and they've, didn't really deserve to be there, and they looked the part of getting wiped in round 1. So this year they're getting better down the stretch. We've got a defense that is far too inconsistent for my liking, but can be really good. They have an elite, not an elite quarterback, but they have a really good deep quarterback that can win in the playoffs, that has experience. So I feel like, they have those ingredients. I feel like they could, in a conference where there's no clear top dog, I don't see why they can't beat the Texans. So I'll pick them because I'm a fan. But I do think earlier in the week, people were acting like, oh, the Steelers are like the Panthers. This is, I disagree with that. I think Vegas obviously agrees with me too on that. This game has the same line that the Niners, Eagles, and the Chargers, Patriots have, or at least within like a point or a half of that. So I'm picking the Steelers, and those are my reasons.
Jack, you were shaking your head a little bit. Are the Steelers like the AFC Panthers?
Oh, they definitely are. They absolutely are.
That's ridiculous.
No, they absolutely are. The only reason they're not like the only difference they have is because they have a Mike Tomlin who knows how to win games. Okay, so you can hate him all he wants. He's a little better than the Panthers head coach. He knows how to win games. They're a 2-win difference from being just like the Panthers. Thank you very much. But no, I will pick the Texans in this one just because of their defense. The Texans have had an absolute insane defense on the stretch. In my opinion, it's the best defense I've seen play since that Rams defense in 2020. You remember when they got really hot and they went into Seattle and they beat them up in that game. That's the thing this Texans defense has done. We've seen some good defenses the last couple of years. Obviously, D'Amico Ryans when he was with the Niners in 2022. That was a very good defense. The Eagles have had some good defenses. But the Texans defense this year, they beat you up. They punch you in the mouth, and they get away with it. They punch you in the mouth within the rules of this new age NFL. Yeah. But I don't think it'll be a blowout. And, Mike, I actually did agree with your point. The path for the Steelers to win this game is their defense. You have to give Aaron Rodgers a chance. And, I'm all about having grace on your enemies, and I've hated Aaron Rodgers my whole career. If the Steelers lose this one in whatever fashion, I will not lay it at the feet of Aaron Rodgers. He has earned his ride off into the sunset. This may be the last game we ever see him play. We have to savor it. We have to watch it as one of our childhood legends may retire for this game. But I also think that he's their best shot. If the Steelers defense can keep Nico Collins from getting a 2-touchdown game and getting up 14 points in the first half and keep it low scoring, Rodgers has a shot because the Texans defense isn't holding that Steelers defense the entire game. It's not like the Steelers are just going to be going three and out turnover. I think the Steelers can put together some drives, and I do think Rodgers will give them a chance. I picked the Texans in the long run just because I do think that defense will get to him. It'll be kind of like the Green Bay game where that game was close for the Steelers this year, but as the defense kept getting after Rodgers, kept getting after him, overwhelmed him a little bit, that probably is what I'm thinking is going down. But I mean, you gotta kind of feel bad for Steelers and Steelers fans because you are right, Mike. It's like every playoff game you step in and you're down 21-0, and it's like you don't even have a chance. And like Ben Roethlisberger didn't have a chance, even Mason Rudolph, he didn't have a chance because that defense was just supposed to be so vaunted and so good with probably the best pass rusher in the NFL on the other side, isn't giving you a chance when it matters most. So, yeah, as an objective critic of the Steelers, if it is 7-7 going into halftime, I actually might give the Steelers a bit of an edge being at home playing against a team that usually plays indoors in the cold. But I do like the Texans. Joe, I saw the Texans are in your Super Bowl pick. Do you want to kind of explain that?
Spoilers.
You just spoiled it, man.
We'll get there. We'll get there. That's a little sneak peek. That's okay. Look, I'm so high on the Texans. I have been really, I was on that pod with you guys week 3.
I was about to bring that up, yeah.
Yeah, and we did your segment where we were all the winless teams, where we sticking a fork in them, and the Texans were the one, and, we talked about it. We said, their defense is still elite, and, like, if a team were to turn it around of those winless teams, it was going to be them, and sure as all they did, but it was way more than I thought it was. I mean, they were 3-5, and now they're ending the year 12-5. That should tell you everything you need to know about this team. And it's not like this team was beating up on, inferior, like the AFC South this year was actually like a pretty feisty division, right? We had at one point there was going to be 3 playoff teams if it wasn't for the Colts' little implosion. And I look at this game and I think the Steelers have a better shot than the Panthers do. I do think they're I think you can say that they're the AFC Panthers just because of them being 4 seeds that probably are going to get first rounded in that comparison. Obviously, the Steelers are better than the Panthers. We all know that. The one thing that is making me like the slightest bit hesitant to picking the Texans, which obviously I am, but the one thing that's making me a little hesitant is the fact that Rodgers, for as much as beat up as this defense, as this Texans defense could beat Rodgers up this game, right? He won't turn the ball over, right? Like, he just won't. He'll take sacks, and the Steelers will punt. And we know Mike Tomlin loves punting, and we know that they will play the field position game over and over and over. Whereas C.J. Stroud, if he gets some pressure on him, I think C.J. Stroud is prone to turnovers. I've seen him make some throws this year over the middle of the field where it's like, ooh. But what this Texans team has been doing that people aren't talking about, and let's go to this Chargers game from 2 weeks ago. I was just talking about the Chargers have a very good defense. Right? Is it as good as the Texans don't? They have a very good defense. In the first 2 possessions of the game, the Texans bombed them. 70-yard touchdown, 70-yard touchdown. The Steelers' offense can't do that. The Steelers' offense does not have explosive plays. They just don't. Their leading receiver this year their leader in catches was a running back, and he was their team MVP. And which is hilarious to me. But the Texans' offense, for as mediocre as it is, they do generate big plays every once in a while. The Steelers' offense almost never does. If they are going to, it's usually those catch and runs to DK or Warren or whatever, and this Houston defense does not give up explosives like some of the other defenses that the Steelers have gotten big plays on against, right? The last big play I can remember the Steelers making was that Detroit game, and if we want to compare the Detroit defenses, the Detroit defense with the Houston defense, it's night and day. So I just think this Houston defense is so good, and I just think the offense isn't great, but I think they play complementary to the defense where they're able to generate enough plays, get that defense back on the field, and wreak havoc. I think we all are in agreement that this will be a very, very low-scoring game. And if I agree with your take, if it's 7-7 going into half, right, I don't know if I necessarily favor the Steelers, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, we get to the fourth quarter, Renegade starts playing, that stadium gets some juice, like, okay, could the Steelers pull off something? But I don't know. I don't think it'll get to that point. And I like Houston in this one, and I like Houston going to the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that shortly.
If it's close in the half, I'll download X and I'll tweet out, "Why not us?"
Is that the
Why
Steelers
not us?
mantra? Is that the Steelers mantra, or is that?
No, it's
it's
Mike
just-
mantra.
Oh, it's your.
That's
Oh,
just-
okay.
I just feel like that's any playoff team's
No, I
mantra.
like that. No, I like that. I like that. I'm gonna say
He's
that
working
for
earlier this
94.
week. I just hear him whispering to himself, "Why not us? Why not us?"
I'm just tweaking in the corner. Why not us? Why
Yeah,
not?
and this is cool. I like that this is a Monday night game. I think this adds, this wouldn't, if this was the Saturday morning game like most Texans playoff games are, this wouldn't have the excitement on it that it does. This being a Monday night game, I think this plays into the Steelers' favors a little bit, having that prime time game with the terrible towels in Pittsburgh.
Well, definitely. I mean, Pittsburgh's actually, they're getting DK back. They're pretty healthy. They're going to be rested. They're home field. Obviously, they play well on Monday night at home for whatever reason. So all that's going in their favor. What's not going in their favor is the Texans' elite defense, the Texans' 9-game win streak, and their lack of playoff success in the last decade.
Yeah.
So something's got to break here. But like you were saying about the Steelers' offense, yeah, the Steelers have easily, I think, the highest amount of their passing yards are just yards after catch. It's actually amazing to me watching this team sometimes that our offense still moves the ball, throwing these screens and these checkdowns. Like, it's kind of crazy to me that other defenses haven't completely shut that down. But they're finding a way, and like I said, Aaron Rodgers is getting hot, and really it is kind of funny to me that even though I don't think either one of them is particularly great, once they brought in Valdez-Scantling and Thielen, these two super old receivers, the offense has been better because they're just the veteran presence that they bring, and so I'm not acting like these guys are these significant playmakers. But I don't know, they've come in, they've got the only running back duo in the league where both running backs had over 1,000 scrimmage yards. So it's not flashy. There's not a lot of big names besides DK Metcalf, but the Steelers' offense has been finding a way. So they're going to have to try to find a way to maybe get to 20 points. I don't see them getting much more than that. So, yeah, it's the Steelers' defense. I feel like I can tell you almost after the first drive, the first Steelers defense first drive, if they came to play or not. Texans go right down the field on for a touchdown. This game's over. I'm already tweeting out, fire Mike Tomlin. I wish we lost last week, and then maybe Tomlin gets fired instead of Harbaugh.
No, re-sign him. Extend him. I think that guy earned at least another 5 years.
If Tomlin wins, Rooney's giving him like a 10-year extension, dude. Like,
Well, this is the thing about it, dude. This is their first division win in 5 years. Why would you not extend the man?
Jack, it's
because
more
the
than
division
that.
sucked this year.
Dude, it's more Coop, my little brother. Shout out Coop, if you're watching or listening.
2020.
We were
2020.
we were
5
talking.
years.
Cooper looked it up. He's 16. He has his driver's license. He was 8 years old the last time they won a playoff game. He told me. Now I don't know if that's
No,
true.
won the division. Won the division.
Won the division. Okay, still, nonetheless, and I mean, look, I think it's exciting. I'm not I'm neutral on the Steelers. It's exciting having playoff football in Pittsburgh, night game. But it's hard for me to get those Tuesday Flowers plays out of my head from last week, and it's hard for me to get those two long bombs that the Texans had against the Chargers 2 weeks ago. And all that shows me is the Steelers offense gives up explosives, or the Steelers defense gives up explosives, and the Houston offense can generate them. So it'll be an interesting one. I think there's a very good chance this is the end of the Aaron Rodgers era in the NFL, and the end of really an era of quarterbacks, right? He's the last of that era, and that's the era we grew up watching. So a lot of storylines going into that one, and I'm very excited about it. Now, fellas, let's get these brackets out, and we're gonna talk these brackets very quickly to end the pod. The bracket will be on screen. Obviously, this is a very novice setup we've got going here, so it's not on screen for us, but it will be on the podcast. And you know what, Mike? We're going to start with you because you're the one that I have screenshotted first. Rams, Jags in the Super Bowl with the Rams winning it all, and that will be a theme throughout these playoff brackets. Talk to me about your bracket with your Super Bowl pick and also some of the notable teams winning throughout the bracket.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been big on the Rams. When Jack and I did our mid-season picks, I picked the Rams to win the Super Bowl back then. They're a little cold coming in. I mean, losing to the Seahawks, that was a controversial loss. They probably should have won that game. The Falcons' loss was a little head-scratching, but, when the Falcons are on, I mean, they did the same thing to the Bills back in Week 6. So, they're not coming in super hot into the playoffs, but the Rams, you trust them a lot with the coaching, the quarterback, the defense. They're a really complete team, and I just think, like I said, I feel like the Bills and the Rams are the two teams that are getting picked the most across both conferences because they're the most familiar, established teams. Even though they're the 6 seed and the 5 seed, nobody really trusts the 1 and the 2 seed because they're all brand new teams that with quarterbacks that haven't even played playoff games before. So to me, I feel like I have a good read on the NFC. If it's not the Rams, it's 100% going to be an NFC West team. Eagles, Packers, Bears, Panthers, no shot in my opinion. If not the Rams, I think the Seahawks, and I think we actually all have the Rams and Seahawks in the NFC Championship. But I feel very, very confident in the Rams. The AFC, like we've talked about, is a complete crapshoot. I was a little tempted to pick Pittsburgh going on a run, but I knew that's not the logic in me saying that. Although I will say, if the Steelers can beat the Texans, why can't they beat the Broncos? But
I agree with
a
that.
separate.
I agree with
That's a
that.
separate.
Yeah.
They would have to go on the road, but that's a separate conversation. But like you said, so I do have Denver beating Pittsburgh. I will say Pittsburgh sucks playing in Denver, but none of us really trust Denver. We don't really trust New England. They're just, Bo Nix, especially as a quarterback. I don't know if I trust him. Drake May looks great, but I don't know what he looks like in the playoffs. Young teams, and so no matter who I pick in the AFC, I kind of just look at him like that's not a Super Bowl team. Like I'm picking this team to go to the Super Bowl. And so we always complain about, the Chiefs always going, but it's weird when you don't see the Chiefs going. It feels like these other teams almost don't belong. So I picked the Jags just because they're the hottest team. And like they have a great defense, they have a great offense. I know they can win in Denver. They haven't played New England this year, but I feel like they can beat anybody. I could see Houston going on a run. Obviously, I didn't pick that because I picked them to lose to Pittsburgh, but they have the defense to do it too. So I picked Jacksonville and LA, and this will be Jacksonville's first ever Super Bowl appearance. But the Rams beat them 35-7 back in Week 8. I don't think it's a blowout like that. The Jags have gotten a lot better since then, but I've just been big on the Rams all year, and I'm not wavering from that. And clearly, I'm not the only one. So that's my bracket.
There you go. All right, Jack, talk to me. You also have the Rams winning the chip, but you do have Denver. Denver, which is very much being disrespected as a 1 seed. You do got them in the Super Bowl. Talk to me about them and some other notable games in your bracket.
Yeah, well, first, I want to point out, I think Mike's bracket involves making NFL history. This would be the first time a wild card team would then host a playoff game the next week. That's never happened before.
Because it's only
That's
been
crazy.
possible. It's only been possible since 2020. It only happens if all the road teams win. So yeah, it is kind of weird. They're on the road. They host the game in the divisional, then back on the road.
It's only been possible in NFL history before 2020 if two wildcard teams won all the way through and made it to the championship. So I think that would be really cool. That would definitely make NFL history. Let's save the Adam Schefter report with random fact of the day like he likes to do. I like Denver in the Mile High just because the Mile High is tough to play. I know I did point out earlier, Jacksonville can win there. They laid 34 on them earlier this year, but playoffs is a different animal. Sean Payton's been there before. He's proven he can win in the playoffs. I think the thing I like about Denver over Jacksonville in the championship is simply, it's going to sound very basic, but it's because about their matchups the week before in my prediction. Denver playing Houston's a tough matchup, but they're at home in the Mile High. Jacksonville on the road versus New England, I would have Jacksonville winning against them, but you're going on the road, playing in the cold. As we talked about, the temperature matters a little bit as opposed to playing in the 60-degree South Florida weather. You go on the road, you play against a tough New England team in the cold, you win, but that game takes a lot out of you. Then you got to go back to the cold again in the Mile High where the altitude's thinner against the Broncos team that has only had to play one game so far. That's the edge I give to the Broncos. It's a very thin line. I think the scenario that Mike proposed for us where the Jaguars win that game is very likely.
Yeah.
That's my thing with the Broncos. They have a slight edge because of that. I like the Rams in the NFC. I don't know. I've been on them all year. In our midseason predictions, Mike and I both had them making the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, I think.
Against
if I'm correct, I could be mistaken. Yeah, against the Bills. NFC's tough. I want the Niners to make it past the Seahawks, but after watching that last game, I don't know if I can say they make it past the playoffs. The Seahawks, I would love to see them and the Rams play again in the NFC Championship games they did 4 years ago. I just don't see it. The Bears, they're only going to make it so far. They're going to get a win. It's going to be exciting, and then they're not going to make it much past that. You guys don't even have a winning game. So Rams is the hottest team, best coach, best quarterback, in my opinion, in the NFC right now, past the division round point. So that's my thing with the Rams. Rams, Broncos, I think that'd be an exciting Super Bowl, and I think Stafford gets second.
Yeah. I'll go to mine, and look, full transparency. So I was podcasting with my boy Zach earlier in the week, and my Super Bowl prediction was Jacksonville, LA, and I partially changed it. Maybe this isn't integrity for the game. I partially changed it because Mike had it and Zach had it, and I was like, I can't have the same Super Bowl matchup as everyone. So yeah, as you can see, I've got Houston in the Super Bowl against LA. Jack revealed that on my behalf earlier. And
Welcome.
look, the Texans, I think momentum is such an important thing in sports in general. To win 9 in a row coming into the playoffs, I think some teams just learn how to win, and I think this Texans team has just learned how to win. Jack, I mean, I've texted you about this over the season, and you mentioned it earlier. This is the best defense I can recall watching in a while. You know, they don't do anything special. They kind of just rush for, play zone, play man-to-man, and basically say, our guys are better than your guys, and they are almost every single play, every single game. So I really do like Houston as a wild card team. This is the year for a wild card team to make to the Super Bowl if they're going to. And obviously I've got two. I've got the Rams and the Texans, and you guys might know better than me. I don't know if two wild card teams have ever faced each other in the Super Bowl or when the last time that happened. You know, obviously it's a rarity in the NFL, especially in this new era of one team getting the bye, because that one team bye is such an important thing ever since they changed it to a 17 format. You know, I like Green Bay. I talked about that earlier. The Rams, for me, yeah, they're coming in slow. People forget this like cold stretch that they've had, this like quote unquote cold stretch, has been without Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams is such an important piece to this offense. He really is in the red zone, moving the ball down the field, takes pressure off of Puka Nacua and how great he is. And, you know, on the AFC side of things, I really do like Jacksonville. I really do, but, you know, Jacksonville, as hot as they've been, right? What's the one team that's given them a blemish most recently? And it was Houston. And it was a game.
The Texans, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a game that the Jaguars choked. They had the lead and just against Davis Mills and the Texans just completely and utterly collapsed in that game. And I think that sticks in the back of your mind. And I think, yeah, okay, let's say you beat the Bills. That's great. Now you've got this division rival that knows you very well. They're coming to your place. They're hot. You know, Jacksonville-Houston is a divisional round matchup. Seems like the weirdest, wackiest, like alternate universe playoffs I can ever recall. Yeah. But that's the season of the NFL, and I'm going to embrace it. You know, as for Denver, Jack, I think you're right. I think the mile high is so valuable, but this team is we talked about it earlier. They win all these close games, and you can only do that for so long. The Bears could only do it for so long, and I think Denver is in the same boat. So I do think they played a close game against Houston earlier in the year. That was the game C.J. Stroud got knocked out of, right? I think with C.J. Stroud and a more hot Texans team, I think they're built to win cold weather games. They went to KC before all the Mahomes injuries and all that, and they beat KC in the frigid cold on Sunday night. And I think that proved that, you know, maybe KC's not the KC of old, but that proved they can win in cold weather games. And I think they can go to Pittsburgh and win, and I think they could go to Denver and win if need be. So I've got Houston in the Super Bowl. With that being said, I don't think they're going to win. I think this Rams offense is too high-powered. I think the defense generates enough turnovers, and they have a really good front. I think Byron Young is really underrated as a player. Everyone knows about Jared Verse, Defensive Rookie of the Year. So that's my bracket, and that's it, boys. So this was by far the longest episode of the Offset and Penalties podcast. I usually cap out at about 45 minutes. We're well past that, but I appreciate you fellas coming on. If you have any last remarks, or if you want to maybe, wink, wink, plug your podcast, please do so now.
Well, thank you for having us on, Joe. Jack and I always talk about, let's try to keep it under an hour today, and we're usually way over time too, so I think it's probably our fault that we went over. Thanks for having us on, and I think to put a bow on the whole AFC talk, I think no matter who goes in the AFC,
it's going to feel to me like how it felt when the Bengals went in 2021, and I'm just going to be like, is this real life? Like, this doesn't feel legit that whatever team it is going to be a Super Bowl team. Even though whoever, does it would have earned it, because I feel like all these teams are so evenly matched. So
Yeah.
it's going to be wild. I'm excited to watch. This is honestly one of the most excited I've been in a while to watch the playoffs. So
The idea of seeing a Jaguar in the end zone at Levi Stadium, just seeing a Jaguar like in that quarter. Like each year we see the Super Bowl field, and it's usually Patriots or Chiefs with some NFC team on the side. But do you see a Jaguar, it'd just be crazy.
Yeah, it would be weird.
I've
And
never done.
a decade ago, there was a Super Bowl at Levi Stadium, and the story of that year was a dominant defense willing a team to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. And I think there's a couple teams, especially on the AFC side, that have dominant defenses that could win in a similar fashion. So the Here We Go podcast, not the Here We Go podcast, without
Thank you.
is on Spotify. I encourage you guys to listen when these guys are popping out episodes. It's ball. You guys heard it here first. These guys are ball knowers, and I appreciate you fellas coming on. For everyone else, I'm back. It's been a couple weeks off. I'm back. UFC starting up in a couple weeks. Playoffs is going to continue to keep going, and we're here to produce the content and feed the people. So I appreciate you boys for coming on, and I'll see everybody later.